Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Bayu Kurniawan. My student ID number is 33210082, and I'm from English literature class. Today, I'm gonna make video about a historical and socio-political context for my cross-cultural understandings class. And let's get started. First is United States. We're talking United States. Historical context. The post-World War II prosperity. The economic boom after World War II fueled consumerism, enabling widespread access to new media like televisions and vinyl records. The presence of over 100,000 US troops in allied countries like Australia during the war also spread American cultural products globally. Civil rights movement from 1950s to 1960s. This era influenced music like Motown, Bob Dylan, and televisions, with African American artists gaining visibility, reflecting struggles for equality. Cold War and counterculture. The 90s counterculture, driven by anti-war sentiments and social liberation, produced iconic music like Woodstock, and fashion is the hippie styles. The key cultural movements, rock and roll, in late 18 and 1950s, artists like Elvis Presley and Chuck Berry defined yacht culture, challenging conservative norms. MTV and pop icons in the 80s. Launch of MTV in 1981 revolutionized music consumptions with stars like Michael Jackson, Madonna, shaping global trends. Hip hop in 1980s to 1990s, emerging from urban communities. Hip hop like Tupac and Jay-Z addressed race, poverty, and identity, influencing fashion and language. Now we're moving to Great Britain. Historical context. Post-war austerity and recovery. Post-World War II, Britain faced economic challenge, but the 1980s saw a cultural explosion with the British invasions like the Beatles, Rolling Stones, etc., exporting music and fashion globally. The Margaret Thatcher era, from 1979 to 1990, socio-political tensions under Margaret Thatcher's policies fueled punk rock, a rebellious youth movement reflecting economic discontent. Multiculturalism. Immigration from former colonies shaped modern British pop culture, evident in music, genres like grime and diverse media representation. The key cultural movements of Great Britain's in pop culture. The first is British invasions in 1960s. The Beatles and the other redefined global music, blending American influences with British sensibilities. Punk rock in 1976 to 1984 is like bands like the Sex Pistols encapsulated socioeconomic frustrations, influencing fashions like leaders, bikes, and media. Britpop in 1990s, bands like Oasis and Blur revived British identity, countering American grunge with nostalgic, working-class themes. And now we'll move to Australia. The post-World War II American influence is the presence of US troops during World War II, and the economic boom introduced American films, music, and television, shifting Australia from British conservatism. Indigenous reconciliations. The 1960s onward saw growing recognitions of indigenous culture, influencing literature, art, and music, like Tasmanian Aboriginal literature. The multicultural policy. In the 1970s, immigration that diversified Australia, impacting its music, world music influence, and comedy like Crocodile Dundee. Australia, again, the key cultural movements, rock and roll in 1950s. The 1955 film Backboard Jungle sparked youth culture, with Australian artists like Johnny O'Keefe emerging. Australian New Wave, 1970s to 1980s. Films like Mad Max and bands like INX defined a distinct Australian identity. Comedy and satire. Icons like Barry Humphries, Dame Edna, and films like Crocodile Dundee showcase Australia's quirky humor. Now is the contemporary trends and cultural dynamics. United States. Streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu dominate, with shows like Stranger Things and reality TV, The Kardashians shaping trends. Social media like TikTok drives viral content and influencer culture. Hip hop and pop like Beyonce and Taylor Swift remain dominant, with themes of social justice and identity. K-pop's influence like BTS reflects globalizations. Fashion, streetwear like Supreme, Gucci, Balenciaga, etc., and sustainable fashion are prominent, influenced by hip hop and environmental awareness. Other expressions, sports like Super Bowl and gaming, esports are cultural spectacles, blending entertainment and social activisms. Athletes like LeBron James. For the Great Britain, British TV like Peaky Blinders, The British Bake Off, balanced gritty drama and light-hearted content, with the BBC maintaining global influence. Social media amplifies British influences. Music is grime and electronic music thrive, reflecting urban and multicultural identities. British artists often address political issues like Brexit. For the fashion is London's fashion scene blends high fashions like Burberry with streetwear and punk influence, emphasizing individuality. For the other expressions like comedy, stand-up, satirical shows, and literature reflect Britain's diverse post-colonial identity. And in Australia, media streaming services are popular, but Australian content like Bluey gains global traction. Social media platforms like Instagram highlight Australian lifestyle, like their surfing culture. For the musics, artists like Tones and I and the Kid Laroi blend pop and hip hop, often with global appeal. Indigenous music, like the Baker Boy, is increasingly prominent. The fashion is Australian fashions emphasize casual, beach-inspired styles, like the billabong, alongside urban streetwear reflecting a relaxed yet diverse identity. For the other expressions like sports, Australian rules football and comedy, Kath and Kim remain cultural staples with a focus on local humor. Comparison and contrast. The distinctive elements of US is the global dominance through Hollywood and music, with a focus on spectacle and commercializations. The Britons balance traditions, BBC with edgy, multicultural expressions. Australia blends indigenous and multicultural influences with a laid-back, outdoor lifestyle. The commonalities. All three are heavily influenced by American media and globalizations. Social media drives trends with TikTok and Instagram shaping youth culture across regions. The social justice themes are prominent in music and media, reflecting global movements like Black Lives Matter. Now it's the theoretical framework and methodology. The theoretical framework, Cultural Hegemony by Antonio Gramsci, Rationale. This framework explains how dominant cultures, American pop culture, influence others through media, music, and fashions, while subordinate cultures, British punk, Australian indigenous art, resist or adapt. It's ideal for analyzing how global and local forces interact in pop cultures. The applications, US Hollywood and music industries exert hegemonic influence globally, shaping British and Australian trends. For the Britain, punk and grunge resist American dominance, asserting local identity. Australia, indigenous and multicultural elements resist homogenizations, while blending with global trends. The research methodology, primary source, interviews, conduct interviews in person or online with cultural experts, local artists, or fans in each country to gain insights to current trends and perceptions. Surveys, distribute online surveys via platforms like Google Forms to collect opinions on pop culture preferences, e.g. favorite music, genres, TV shows, whatever, from diverse demographics in the US, Britain, and Australia. For the content analysis, analyze recent media, top Netflix shows, music charts, fashion blogs to identify trends and themes. Secondary sources, academic articles, use journals like Global Media Journal or Sociology Institute for scholarly analysis of pop cultures. For books, reference works like Understanding Popular Culture by John Fiske for theoretical insights. Websites and reports use sources like Britannica, Shun Culture, and Timeline Tale for historical and contemporary data. Media archives review music video, films, and TV episodes from platforms like YouTube or streaming services to trace evolution. Methodology steps. First is literature review, synthesize secondary sources to establish historical and contemporary context. Data collections, gather primary data through interviews and surveys, focusing on diverse perspectives. Content analysis, code media samples, like lyrics and TV scenes for themes like rebellion, identity, or globalizations. The comparative analysis is used the cultural hegemony framework to compare how each country's pop culture reflects or resists global influence. Future directions. Increased cultural exchange. The rise of K-pop, anime, and Bollywood suggests ongoing global integrations. American pop culture will continue to dominate but absorb more non-Western elements. The social movements like climate activism and gender equality will shape narratives in music, film, and fashion with artists in all three countries advocating for change. Technological advancements. Virtual reality and augmented reality immersive experiences will redefine media consumption, with VR concerts and AR fashion shows gaining traction. AI-generated music and art will democratize content creations, allowing new voices to emerge in all three countries. Social media evolutions. Platforms like TikTok will continue to drive viral trends, with algorithms shaping what becomes popular. Sorry, I skipped the last part. And US will remain a pop culture powerhouse, but with greater diversity in media representations due to global and activist influences. Britain, he will balance its heritage with BBC with innovative, multicultural expressions, especially in music and digital art. Australia will emphasize indigenous and sustainable themes, blending them with global trends in music and film. Okay, I think that was the last part. Yeah, that was the last part. Uh, Thank you for the attention. That's all from me from my presentation today. Thank you for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.